Hello everybody, GZTV back with another video, and we are here with another episode review for Dexter Resurrections. We are a little over halfway through the season. This is episode 6. I think it's called Cat and Mouse. We have David Dastmalchian's character coming to fruition here with the Gemini Killer, and he seems to be a worthy foe for Dexter Morgan. It is pretty fucking exciting. After this, we have 4 more episodes, and then we're just gonna have to keep waiting and see what they do with this show, because I feel like this show has a really good future. Obviously, this is a spoiler review. I just want to gear you guys up for that. So here you have it. This show's episode 6 of the show, Cats and Mouse, continues the impressive streak of the 3rd spin-off series of the franchise. Obviously, we had Original Sin as well as New Blood before, and now we are in Resurrection, just so you guys are catching up with me and you guys aren't aware of the series and you're just watching my reviews to do it. There's kind of like a bridge between the first and latter halves of Dexter's New York journey. This episode shows Dexter making progress as a father to Harrison as he takes out another one of Prater's elite serial killer, Gemini, or so he thought. There's some cleverness behind it, there's some plot twist behind it, and great revelations, and it's a really good episode. I think it's one of the most well written, one of the best made, one of the most clever, like in terms of the plot and what happens. It's a really good episode. I wouldn't say it's the best episode so far necessarily, but I really enjoyed it. Dexter's human side, which has become shockingly more apparent in Resurrection than in previous seasons, breaks through during a touching eulogy for Blessing Kamara's late mother in the early moments of the episode, and some critics are like, oh, I don't really like Blessing being in the storyline and stuff. He's kind of unnecessary. I like the heartfelt stuff that's been going on with his character and everything that comes with it. I think it's been great. It's not long, however, before Prater starts to circle in on Dexter, still undercovers the rideshare killer, Red, and sends the little Charlie to investigate. Now you kind of assume that they're like, is this guy actually the rideshare killer? Is he covering as someone else? Is he possibly a fucking undercover agent? That's definitely a possibility that probably crossed their minds. So yeah, we're just gonna get into a giant discussion again. We'll talk about every single thing that happened in the episode, so if you guys don't want to stick around for that, get to the review at the end, sure. I'd watch the episode before I watch these videos anyway. So this episode delivers another great twist with the Gemini Killer twin reveal. Again, spoiler alert, now that Dexter has successfully killed or neutralized 3 of Prater's serial killer dinner party invitees, that only leaves 2 left on his to-do list, Rapunzel and Gemini. Rapunzel's the guy that chops off the ponytails, and Gemini is the Gemini Killer. I think he's a play on the Zodiac Killer. I feel like there is actually a Gemini Killer in real life, though. That sounds like it could be a thing. David Dastmalchian is finally able to take the spotlight in this episode. They kind of stowed him away, they kind of cast him away for a while, but I do like how they're starting to kind of pay off with that. They're starting to get his character more involved in this episode. I think that is incredible. Portraying Gemini as self-involved, egotistical, and most shocking of all, a twin, which again is the big thing of the week, because hey, I like the dynamic here. We're watching this live as everyone else is. You see the critical reactions, and I'm here for the ride. I love the show. I think it's satisfactory that I'm finally caught up with it. I think that's great. Dexter hadn't anticipated that there might be 2 men behind the infamous Gemini Killer persona, one of whom proudly boasts that they own the top spot on the FBI's most wanted list. So there's kind of 2 sides of the Gemini Killer, as there are 2 different people. One of them is very boastful, one of them is very egotistical, like I said before, and Dexter takes full advantage of that, and I love that. Again, Dexter, so clever, pulling out all the stops, just doing great at kind of navigating and making it realistic, making it in true Dexter Morgan fashion, which I've really come to appreciate here. The Gemini always killed in pairs, which would have been ambitious for just one serial murderer, so the Gemini twin twist is not only surprising, but also quite logical. It's a relief that we'll get to see more of Dastmalchian as Gemini in future episodes of this season, that they had that twist exist so he could be there. He is one of the most riveting supporting characters in franchise history, and will hopefully stick around at least until the end of the 1st season, because again, like has been announced, they are doing multiple seasons of this, which I think is fantastic. That is great. I will say, however, the Gemini's first kill scene did feel a bit rushed, since Dexter typically relishes these iconic table scenes and he's a little more careful. I guess a lot of what people are talking about with Dexter, the whole narrative, is that he's been a careful killer, but this season he's kind of like has that not give a fuck energy to him, which is weird. It makes more sense in retrospect, I guess, for him to do this, since Gemini is not only 1 but 2. Still, in the moment, it felt like we were robbed of what could have been a legendary conversation. Usually he lets them talk too. I think that is another talking point that people were talking about, is that he usually lets the killers talk. He asks them questions. Why would you do this? Do you feel good about yourself? Type of things. He didn't really give him time to breathe, literally. Also, we will get to Mia. I do think they kind of brushed her character off. It kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Killing off Kristen Ritter's Mia made sense for the story, but unfortunately it feels like a missed opportunity for the franchise, because her and Dexter had so much going for a while, and for them to just I don't know. At the same time, though, I don't really trust this show by saying she died. I think it's very possible that Charlie had someone poison her or subdue her. I don't know. I guess she didn't have a pulse, but I guess there's drugs out there that could possibly make you lose your pulse and then you could come back to life later. I think that's still a possibility, but I guess she's dead. I don't really know. Ritter was exceptional as Lady Vengeance. She was my favorite of all the serial killers so far. Obviously, the Gemini could take her spot potentially, even after her reputation proved to be a hoax, as she will be sorely missed in the show after initially seeming like Dexter's perfect match. So next we're going to get into kind of Batista and other supporting characters. They keep the show highly entertaining, kind of in the background as Dexter's navigating through the serial killer world. Batista's pursuit of Dexter as the Bay Harbor Butcher has kind of been the backbone of this season. That's been kind of the big overarching story. Although Prater kind of stole his shine and came through, it's still, at the end of the day, the end goal of the season is Batista catching Dexter. His arc has not only been thrilling, even in small doses, but also wise and strategic, naturally bringing him to the NYPD offices of Detectives Wallace and Olivia, and I love that whole storyline, how he's getting involved with the NYPD. I think that is fantastic. The loving dynamic between Charlie and her sick mother is also briefly depicted in this episode. I think that has kind of been a waste of our time so far. I think they've been building that up way too slow. I don't know if in the end it's gonna fucking mean anything. I guess it's showing that Charlie has like a heart. I don't know why they're doing it. It may have future implications. I don't know. You gotta kind of put that on the back burner and focus on Batista, Dexter, and Harrison. Those are like the three main characters of the season so far. I guess we'll get to Harrison here in a little bit. Additionally, after Harrison made a regrettable move on Elsa, that kind of left a sour taste in his mouth, as well as my mouth, honestly, and it's a weird situation now with them. He still offered to babysit her son Dante. Obviously shows how humane of a person he is, especially compared to Dexter, which nearly ended in a violent altercation between him and Elsa's mean-spirited landlord, played by none other than Steve Sciarippa of The Sopranos. I fucking loved that. That was a huge surprise when Bobby from The Sopranos came on the screen. I was like, holy fucking shit, that's the guy from The Sopranos. That's amazing. I love the cast they've had this season. Uma Thurman, Christian Ritter, fucking Neil Patrick Harris. It's been ridiculous. And Dexter's been such a successful franchise that you kind of knew at some point that we're going to start having a star-studded cast. That's incredible. And the increased dynamic between Dexter and Blessing's Kamara is an interesting development that offers a change of pace from all the bloodshed. I think the purpose of that, some people don't see a purpose in it, but I do think there is a purpose. I think for the most part, the purpose in that is to kind of give Dexter some, like, again, humanity, kind of give him someone to lean on that's an innocent person, a friend, a brother Sam type of guy that kind of teaches him morals, kind of takes him through these different life experiences like going to funerals, and I think that's a good thing. Dexter receives guidance and advice on how to be a better parent to Harrison through their friendship as well. A lot of words of wisdom are spoken out. Dexter kind of catches them and spews them out to Harrison to make him look like a good father. While these moments certainly detract from the action, of course, and that's what a lot of people's complaints are, perhaps just a bit too much for certain people, they speak to one of Dexter's biggest objectives in this show, which is to become more emotionally available to the best of his ability. I do feel like a big part of the show is Dexter's kind of hunt to become a better person, and I think, again, Blessing kind of is a big part of that. Do they divulge in that a little bit? Maybe. I don't know. This point is made clearest when Dexter and Harrison have a conversation towards the end of the episode about his future. Dexter doesn't reject Harrison for not having a dark passenger like him. Instead, he embraces Harrison for who he is and recognizes that the inherent good in him is certainly from his mother Rita, who is a fantastic woman, as we saw from the original series. Following Mia's death, Batista and the two NYPD detectives, I'm kind of just bouncing around here, though, likely put their heads together to track down their next best target, which is Harrison. I do think they are getting really close to cracking things. Now, similar to what people were saying about like Deborah Morgan in the original show, I do think Batista is a little too on the nose. I guess he is a seasoned veteran in this world of crime, but he knows exactly what fucking happened, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know, it'll probably pay off eventually. At the same time, Dexter is being too closely monitored by Prater and Charlie to keep Harrison a secret from them as well. They're gonna find out eventually that he has a serial killing son, so that's kind of something I didn't really think about at the end of the episode, but as I'm looking through my notes here, it makes sense. As in the case with most of the people Dexter's tried to keep close to in his life, Harrison is on track to become a major weakness and liability for Dexter, honestly, because he's trying to hold back this dark passenger, and Dexter's like prodding him, making sure he does so, like, we don't need another killing, I don't need to help you clean up another crime, and it's a lot. He's Batista's link to catching and arresting Dexter, while also being evidence to Prater that Dexter is an imposter. So Harrison's kind of like the pawn, I guess you could call him here. Dexter and Harrison, they have to get out of New York City for these reasons by the end of this season, which would be interesting to see. There's a lot. There's kind of some goods and bads. I guess we can get to those in a second, but overall, really fun episode here. This just came out, I don't remember, this just came out like a couple of days ago. I don't know, I guess it came out early for some people, but let's get into the review. So just kind of getting into the review, I'll give a short, like, good and bad type of thing. I do think a good thing is the whole Gemini killer. Just kind of to summarize it, just the Gemini killer thing. The reveal is very smart and satisfying. I was genuinely surprised by it. So there's kind of that. I really liked what they did there. Both Praetor and Batista are putting more pressure on Dexter, which is great. Those are two really good chess pieces in this whole story. You know, Praetor's starting to get some suspicion. Obviously, he has Charlie go to his house, and she finds that he hasn't been there in fucking weeks, probably months. Harrison is at the center of everything and could lead to Dexter's demise. I like that as a storyline. I like him kind of being a liability. I think builds for a lot of interesting things. Dexter has a lot to fight against here. I do think the one bad thing is how they brushed off Mia and killed her off too early, and most people would have blessings Kamara in here. I don't think so. I think really the only bad thing with this episode is the whole Mia situation, and they could capitalize on that and say, hey, we poisoned her for a moment, now she's back alive just so she could get out of jail. I don't know how the fuck that would work, but they could try to pull that off. I don't know, her character had big franchise potential. She could have possibly been like the next Hannah McKay, even better, probably way better than Hannah McKay, because Kristen Ritter's an amazing actress, but it is what it is. The show makes decisions. You're not always perfect all the time. They're not always going to do stuff I like in terms of the story and plot. So with that being said, it has been your boy GZTV. I gotta get to bed. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching this again. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, it has been GZTV, giving you guys these TV reviews every single week that Dexter drops an episode. We are going to be watching it. I don't know if they're going to be taking any breaks, but every single week music is out. We have a bunch of stuff. Follow the socials. Just go check it out. I'll give you plenty of updates throughout the week.